Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back. I got another quick entry here in the Second Chance Review, a little Second Chance Cinema. For those who are new, that's where I find a film that maybe I didn't take to initially and try to revisit it to see if I'd actually enjoy it this time around. So for this one, I want to take a trip back to the early 1980s with the John Carpenter film Escape from New York, starring Kurt Russell, amongst others. Now, I remember this one being very popular back in the day. Mainly, I just remember having a really cool poster design here, which is really cool to check out. But I don't really know if I had seen much of it on cable, or if, like the original Willy Wonka film, I just always seemed to miss it somehow, even though everybody else seemed to grow up with it. But, I just never really got on board with this one back in the day, that I can remember at least.
I know that sounds bad.
But what is this film about? Well, the synopsis is as follows. In 1997, when the US president crashes into Manhattan, now a giant maximum security prison, a convicted bank robber is sent in to rescue him. So, that bank robber is Snake Plissken, who has some military background as well, and is played by Kurt Russell. And the president here is being played by Donald Pleasence, who's been in other John Carpenter films. Both of them have. Like I said, I never really taken to this one, and I even remember sometime in the mid-90s buying this one on Laserdisc back in the day. For you kids out there, those are kind of like Blu-rays and DVDs, but they're big, the size of like a vinyl album. Anyways, I remember buying it, really not getting into it, and actually returning that movie. Later down the line, I tried to give it another chance, so I'd picked it up on Blu-ray, which I still have here, and anytime I would put it on, I would just end up getting distracted and not really stay all that interested in it. So I'd always been wanting to give it another try, just really sit down and check it out, especially now that I've seen more John Carpenter films over the years. And this time I definitely did take to it much more. So first off, a bit about the film's overall feel. Dark is, a very dark, slow, and brooding kind of movie. A late-night manhunt of sorts through dangerous territory. We got characters you can't trust in a dangerous part of the country where you wouldn't want to even set foot in, being this Manhattan that's been converted into like a prison. So bringing us through on this journey, of course, is Snake, played by Kurt Russell. And he's just acting a total badass the entire time. We get some cool cheesy lines like we've seen in some other John Carpenter stuff later on, like They Live. A lot of tough talking, spraying bullets, and wildly swinging punches in like this pure 80s action fashion. However, this is one I just can't really feel it as being much of an action film, because it's got a little bit more going on than that. Mainly in that it's kind of slow in the way that it's bringing you through this. It feels more as we are carefully traversing Manhattan, on the lookout for the president while trying to stay out of trouble. We are just put in a situation that's very dark, with the sneaking around happening, more stealth happening here than pure action. Though we do get these bumps of action that are really cool, and when those bumps happen, they definitely stick out a lot because we're not just being bombarded with it the whole time. So slow, dark, sneak around, pop, we get some action. Some pretty cool stuff. Now, along this journey, we also get the likes of Isaac Hayes, who of course did the voice of Chef on South Park and has a very big career before all of that. I only mention that because it's kind of more known these days. Harry Dean Stanton, who has been in a lot of stuff. I mean, he was in Alien, he was in Pretty in Pink, he has a little cameo in the first Avengers movie. Last thing I saw him in might have been the last thing he had done, which is a 2017 part of Twin Peaks. We also have Adrienne Barbeau, who's in like The Fog and Creepshow and a bunch of other things, and I hope to meet her in about a month or two at Spookala when that convention comes around. Ernest Borgnine, and of course the man himself, Tom Atkins, who's just a badass in anything that he's in. Very large personalities on screen, which really kind of hold this film together and probably make it as good as I felt it was, finally having given it this second chance viewing. So it really is this fun, dark, late-night film, which I could see, just watching this with all the lights out, trying to kind of get in the feel of this whole situation. But as for why I didn't take to it initially, I think it was just the lack of action. Being a kid, I was growing up seeing things like Commando and Rambo and several other like really high-octane action films of the 80s, which I think, seeing that poster, I was somehow expecting this to be one of those kinds of films. Just non-stop action happening, rather than the slower sneaking around kind of stealth kind of film that it is, with that political side going on and just not really the constant explosions in your face. So when I was a kid, I likely just kind of lost patience and couldn't really pay attention. But perhaps if back then I was a fan of more John Carpenter films, such as Halloween and The Fog especially, which I feel that they have a similar feel with the way that he paces everything, I probably would have gotten into this film, you know, much, much more going into it with that different kind of mindset. But like I said, back then I just couldn't get into it. But now that I have revisited all the Halloween films and finally checked out and loved The Fog, both of which have videos up for which I will link to at the end of this video. So The Fog I think I watched 3 times last year because I just love that one so much. And with the Halloween films, I'd watched the original and the 3 sequels that are supposedly ending out this franchise all in one day to see how those work better as like binging the entire story at once. But anyways, I'll put up links for those at the end. But now that I've kind of revisited more of his work and caught up on work that I hadn't seen before, I ended up really enjoying Escape from New York much, much more on this revisit, and it was definitely worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out this quick little video here for Escape from New York from 1981, starring Kurt Russell, Isaac Hayes, Ernest Borgnine, Adrian Barbeau, Harry Dean Stanton, Donald Pleasance, and Tom Atkins, which at the time of, and of course it's directed by John Carpenter, and at the time of this video, I believe it's only available on the Criterion channel as well as paid rental. I'd picked up that Blu-ray, it was very cheap. But yeah, it was definitely a fun one, that was definitely worth checking out. And anyways, that's about all I got to say on this one, giving it a second chance, and also it's a nice little 80s throwback one to throw up in the middle of the week like this. Well, not throw up, put up. Anyways, nice one to put up in the middle of the week. Thanks for coming by and for sticking around to the end, as it really does help out quite a bit, as does, of course, liking, subscribing, and all that kind of stuff. And I will see you in the next one.